Boom, urban farmers, gardeners, and healthy food visionaries. Greg Peterson here, and welcome to the 252nd episode of the Urban Farm Podcast, where 3 days a week we work together educating and inspiring you to become part of your food revolution. Healthy food is something that everybody wants, delicious and nutritious, and right outside your own door is even better. Just text garden to 44222 or go to iwanttogarden.com and you will receive our free webinar about the 7 key factors you need to know to grow your own food. Remember, that's garden to 44222 or iwanttogarden.com. Today on our podcast, we have someone who cares about changing the world for your outdoor pets. Let's get to know Ed Vaccaro and talk about hydration for outdoor pets, small animals, and your plants. Ed grew up in Northern California during the 1970s. His parents were in the flower business, and his uncle was in the plant business. His relationship with his family and their businesses influenced his direction in life. A keen animal lover from early childhood, he joined the famed animal husbandry organization 4-H. After working in the solar industry for a while in the 1980s, he eventually went back to his roots and launched his own plant business. He quickly won accounts with 2 large grocery store chains and opened a store in the San Francisco flower market. How fun is that? These days, Ed is the proprietor of HydroPet, an automatic outdoor water bowl for pets that periodically automatically refreshes itself while repurposing old water to nearby trees, shrubs, and plants. Welcome to the show today, Ed.
Hey, thanks for having me, Greg.
Absolutely. I have to tell you, about 3 months ago, I saw this product and it was like, wow, I got to talk to this guy. So I'm really excited because we keep chickens here at the Urban Farm. So I'm really excited to hear your story. So I shared a bit about you. Can you fill in the blanks for us and share more about the path you took to get where you're at now?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm a irrigation geek, from way back, and I had my plants, my garden, and my pets set up on a drip system.
Oh.
And for me that was like second nature. And I got news that my neighbor's pug died from dehydration.
Oh.
And so I was thinking about finding him something to that he could plug into his sprinkler system so he could have something set up. And really, to go back to the pug, they have a male and a female. They separated them. They went to work. The female pug was in heat.
Uh-huh.
They came home, and what happened is the male pug knocked the water bowl off the top of the steps, and it was a 105-degree day.
Got it.
And the pug died from dehydration. So I went online and I was looking for something that really wasn't available. It was something that I had created for myself, for my own purpose, for my animals. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking, and I went to all the pet stores. I went to online. I put in all the keywords into Google, and there was nothing available. And at that point, I realized that there was a market for a product, and that really led me on my search. Did a Google patent search, couldn't find anything that was patented, and then I went from there. Started off with, my first patent, went into production and created the HydroPet.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about. We're going to get to some of the more background story here in a minute, but I want to hear a little bit about the HydroPet and how it works.
Sure. Well, if you have a hose bib on the side of your house,
Mm-hmm.
you have a drip system or a sprinkler system, and your pets spend time in the yard, you have outdoor animals, you're going to love the HydroPet. It's really a great product that you could set it up and forget about it. It will come on when you want it to come on. And for myself, in the summertime, depending on how hot it's going to be,
Mm-hmm.
I might have it go on 3 times a day, maybe for about 3 minutes, and circulate the warm water out of the bowl. So this way I know that my pet has cool water during the day, and pets sense fresh water, and they'll drink more when they sense it's fresh, because that's just natural. The other thing about the HydroPet is, there's lots of different watering systems out there, but this is a very natural. They're the natural way a pet drinks is from a stream or a pond, fresh water.
Of course.
And, so with the circulation of the water, they'll drink more. And if they drink more, depending on the type of pet that you have, if it's a chicken, obviously you'll have healthier chickens with dogs, cats, urinary infections, kidney stones, things like that. So they'll drink more when they have fresh water. So it's really good for them.
So how'd you come up with this?
Well, it was, I had these prototypes on the side of my house, and I had set it up with one microjet, and I had the microjet going into the bowl, and I noticed that where the microjet was shooting into the bowl, I didn't have any algae growing. Where the microjet was not hitting, I was getting algae growing in the bowl because it was just set up on automatic timer when my garden was being watered, so with my pets. And so then I started playing around with it. Then I added 2 jets. Then I added 3 jets. And then I looked at it and went, okay, now I'm not getting any algae at all, but I've got to do something with this water that's spilling over. So we created a little waterfall that's on the side of the bowl, so I could point the bowl wherever I want the excess water to flow. So if you park it next to a plant, tree, or a bush, you can repurpose the water. In some areas, you people don't really care about the little extra, 60 seconds of water that once it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to fill up, and then anything after that, you're going to get some runoff. But what it's doing is it's making sure that nothing sticks to the side of the bowl. It's repurposing the water, it's taking any leftovers that your pet has left in there from the day before or whenever they last drank out of it. So it cleans the bowl and refreshes it, and you'll always have fresh water.
Yeah, nice. So the HydroPet is a really cool product, and I have a sense that in the past you've got other things, other ideas that you've had that you've implemented. So can you tell us about some of that?
Sure. So if you go back to my roots, I was in the flower and plant business, greenhouse business. We used lots of drip line and irrigation. And then in the 80s, I decided to go to Maricopa Tech, which is in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, in my backyard.
And I studied, in your backyard. I studied solar and hydronics, and that's the study of water flow. And you start putting everything together, and then just being around a lot of pets, and next thing after years, I probably had my HydroPet in my backyard for 10 years before I even brought it to market. Didn't realize there was this huge market for it. But yeah, it really comes from my roots.
Yeah. Cool. So I really want to dig into the business process that you've gone through over the past few years to get this thing done. I know that you like the book Blue Ocean Strategy, and you've modeled your business around that. So let's talk about that. Sure.
Well, it was a book a friend of mine turned me on to, and I had showed him my prototype, and we were kind of talking about, there was no competition for, my product. And he goes, you need to read this book. And so what the Blue Ocean Strategy is about is the systematic approach to creating uncontested market share or space in a market. And it's really to coach you on making your competition irrelevant, opening up new market space and creating new demand. And so, for me, my product sits on a shelf in the irrigation department at Home Depot now. And it's the only pet product that they have in the store. As a matter of fact, it's the only pet product they have in the irrigation aisle. So I've created, literally a new space. And when I first developed the product, I didn't really think about, the irrigation part of it. I was thinking pet stores. And so I was going from one pet buyer to the next pet buyer, and they weren't getting it. And we could talk a little bit about that along the way with my success and failures. But, the Blue Ocean Strategy is about, space and that is ripe for growth. And I think the pet industry and the irrigation industry are exploding, right? And that.
And the food, the grow your own food movement is, I've seen it literally explode over the past 5 or 6 years. People are so interested in where their food comes from and, growing their own.
Absolutely. And, myself, I have, I always have my vegetable garden going and doing whatever I can.
Uh-huh.
So also, for my pets also. But getting back to the business part of it, the blue ocean strategy is also about not swimming with the sharks, not swimming in the red ocean, right? That's like selling the same set of tires your competitor is selling. And
Right.
it's like making something that's different and creating a new tread, or, what makes your product stand out? What makes you different than your competition? What could you do to put a product out on the market that nobody else can compete with?
Right.
And so it's really, that's the blue ocean strategy. So if you're stuck, in a red ocean, you need to really read the book, A Blue Ocean Strategy. If you're one of the entrepreneurs that are listening to us today, and remember that that every market space at once was new, and someone had to create it. So there's so many new thoughts out there that people haven't brought to market. There's so many new products that are out there. If you watch Shark Tank, or or one of my favorites is The Prophet. I love Marcus Lemonis because he is really all about the blue ocean strategy. If you see when he goes into somebody's business,
right,
he's looking for ways to create a new process, and he uses the 3 Ps. And so, it's profit, process, and product, and people. I'm sorry. And so that's really what it's all about. You have to have those things to be able to outperform or to create that blue ocean.
Interesting. So the blue ocean is the place where you don't have any competition.
Yeah, you're swimming out there by yourselves.
Wow.
And so there's ways to look at your product, and there might be people listening to us today that have a product and they're constantly worrying about their profit or the ability to compete. So yeah, if you really think and you look at this blue ocean strategy, it might take your mind somewhere to where you haven't gone before.
Right. Cool. And you've done how is this reflected in your business?
Well, that's a really great question. So going back to, trying to sell this to the pet stores, I had a really hard time. And then I was thinking and looking at the product and going, well, this is an irrigation product. And when I start speaking to the irrigation buyers, they were just loving it. Absolutely loving it.
That's the blue ocean piece.
When
you went from the pet stores to the irrigation stores.
Exactly. And all of a sudden, but it goes back to, knowing your product. And it's funny, you could be the creator of it, but understanding your market, understanding your customer, understanding your product, it comes with time. For me, it was all about, convenience for me and watering my dogs. I have Australian Shepherds. I've had a few litters, and all I was thinking about, hey, this is great for dogs, but really all of a sudden, the chickens, potbelly pigs, there were more animals that could benefit from this product.
Right. Any of them.
Yeah. And it really opened that up. It's the irrigation buyers that were my customers, and the people that are in that get it, that have outdoor animals and go, oh my God, this is about convenience for me. This is about my pet's health. This is about, them drinking fresh water and drinking enough water, because, the different systems they have out there for chickens, like the nipple drippers, you have to train your chickens to drink, tilt their head up.
Right.
It's not natural. And they're not drinking enough because it's not a natural act for them. But drinking out of a bowl or a stream is taking them back to their roots.
Yeah. With a waterfall on it. Cool. So this is a patented product, yes?
Correct.
So tell us, I know, because I've worked on patents before. I know what what they can take. Tell us about that process for you.
Yeah. So I had that aha moment, and I remember when I had the first microjet was cleaning the bowl, and I added the second and the third one, and I was looking at it, and I brought my cousin over, and we were looking at it together, and we're looking at each other, And I remember his wife saying, "I think you've got something here." And I go, I'm thinking the same thing. So I did my patent search. I got a patent, and then went to my patent attorney, and we submitted the patent. And it was 11 months later we were rejected. And the thing is again, the person at the patent office is looking at it and trying to look at other products that could be similar, or maybe they do the same thing. And so then they'll reply back to you. Then you got to reply back and saying, well, this is actually
why it's different.
Yeah, this is why it's different. This is the functionality, blah, blah, blah. This is the flow of the water. Because one of the things that I did was I patented the water flow. And that was one of the 17 claims that are on the bowl. And then we submitted it again. It was almost a year, probably maybe another 11 months later, it was rejected again. So, it's really about the person at the patent office understanding what you're doing or what the concept is. Then we replied back and did some clarifications. Boom. It was probably another 8 months later. Boom, we got it approved. So it was about 2.5 years to get the patent. And I did not want to go to market until I had the patent, but I had everything ready to go. I had my plastic manufacturer, everything lined up. So the minute that I was ready to give the green light to the plastic manufacturer, I did a non-disclosure agreement with him. So he was ready to go, and he was all set ahead of time before this was patented. And boom, we were off and running.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. This is always fun for me. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 14. That was 42 years ago. And so I don't often get to talk to other entrepreneurs on the show. So I love doing it when they show up. So thank you for, sharing that stuff with us.
Absolutely. Yeah. The one thing though, I have to say to all the entrepreneurs out there that, there's sacrifice. I sold my home to come up with the money so I could self-fund the company.
Oh my gosh.
So I did that, and I moved into a rental, and I used the proceeds from my house. And so, that's commitment. That's like
that's a commitment.
That is putting the boat on shore and burning the boat. Okay, and and just totally went for it, and 100% commitment. You have to be all in, and that's really the advice that I have to give to all the listeners.
Yeah. Yeah, great. So how's it going?
Well, it's going really well. So we launched the product last year, and a lot of work went into launching the product. We did all the trade shows. We did Super Zoo. We did the hardware show. We did the landscaping show. We've been working, our Facebook and internet, and I've been visiting with a lot of different buyers. And so Home Depot last summer, we started engaging and talking, and it was late summer. They gave me one Home Depot store to go into. And they said, okay, we're going to let you, and it took a while to get set up with Home Depot too, because you have to go through all this compliance and testing and all this stuff to become a vendor. They really do a lot of background check on their vendors. And so I got one store to work into. I went to the store for a weekend. We brought 24 hydro pets with us for the weekend, and I worked the store. I had a little setup where I had a pump in a wash tub. I put a little skirt around it and a little AstroTurf with on top of it was actually, the dog screen that goes on that protects your screen. So I had a little grate on top of it, and then I put AstroTurf on it, and I stood right there in the irrigation aisle when people would walk by the aisle, just like you see when you go into Home Depot. You see all the different the solar people and the rug people and all the different vendors that sit out there, and I shared my product with everyone. And people will come by and they want to stick their hand in the bowl and feel the water flow, and they're just amazed. We sold every one of them.
I was going to say, dude, you didn't take enough.
We didn't take enough. We sold every one of them. So then the irrigation buyer talked to the store manager. Next thing you know, they say, okay, now we're going to give you 4 stores. I'm like, wow. And this was Black Friday. This was right after Thanksgiving. So boom, now I'm in 4 stores, and they wanted me to go into the 4 stores and do the same thing in 4 different stores.
Oh my gosh.
We kind of did the same thing, and we had a repeat performance.
Right.
So, boom, January, we've got an order for 34 stores. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then boom, we got another order. It just kept growing and growing. And so we continue to ship. We're in over 200 stores now. So,
Nice.
and the nice thing about it is we're getting reorders from these stores that we're shipping into. So right
Right.
now, 200 stores, they have 3,800 stores. So I'm just hoping that, this continues to grow. Now, one thing I did learn, Greg, is
Please.
that when you received the HydroPet, you received it with a timer.
I did. Thank you.
So one of the things I learned while I was in the store, and it's the same thing with my website. On my website, people are bouncing back and forth from looking at the timer and the the additional products we have, and then the bowl. And when I married them together on the website, we're selling the combo kit, the bowl and the timer together. Now at Home Depot, I had the same conversation, and this is going to talk to you about my next product. I was talking to the irrigation buyer, and I go, where you have me in the store, I'm like 20 feet, 30 feet away from the timers, and married up together, it's a high performance product. It's a great product when you marry the timer, but people weren't realizing. So now I have a new combo product. It's our deluxe kit that I'm introducing to Home Depot. They put me together with Rainbird, and I'm sure
nice.
Rainbird. Yeah, so I'm doing a co-branded product that will be launching in the next month or so with Rainbird and with a Rainbird timer. And so that news release will go out probably sometime the end of June or July, something like that.
Cool. So this has all happened in the past year.
This has all happened in the last year.
Congratulations.
It was great. I went to Tucson, Arizona, and I actually met with the Rainbird people. Here I am, this, entrepreneur, small company, and this is probably one of the largest irrigation companies in the world. And I got to sit at the table with them for hours. And when we walked away, it was, we want to do business with you. We want to support you and help you, grow your business and partner with you, see how it goes over the next year. And maybe we could take this thing to the next step. It was very exciting.
Nice. Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ed, tell us why we need the timer with the HydroPet.
Well, it's really important because as the weather gets warmer, you're going to want to have your water circulating a little more often. I always say, you can set the HydroPet up and almost forget about it. And it's really, the performance of the timer that makes the difference. And so if you want your water circulated 3 times a day, it'll do it. 4 times a day, it'll do it. Once a day, the wintertime, I do it once a day. When I hit the summertime, it's three times a day easily. And depending on how many animals you do have and that you're watering, because because of the timer, you can actually have less bowls in your yard because you can circulate more water into your HydroPet. Yeah. And what really, really separates the HydroPet from all the other watering systems you have too is you have the float bowls. The float stick, when they refill the bowl, they're refilling it up with all the leftovers in it, and they get algae and get stuck, and so you don't get really fresh water.
Yeah. Well, and I know with chickens, if they don't have fresh, cool water, they won't drink it. Every summer, when June and July rolls around, I get people, calling me or emailing me and say, oh my gosh, I lost some chickens because they didn't have cool, fresh water. And so we really need to make sure that your pets have fresh water, and it has to be cool. So my HydroPet is in the shade here at the Urban Farm. That's another thing.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and my thought process too behind that is sometimes people don't really have a choice where they could put it in the yard, but the sun will move. And so, you might need to have your timer go off a couple of times a day, especially if there's a period of time when the sun's hitting the bowl. Yeah,
perfect. All right, good. So HydroPet, 100% made in the U.S.?
Yes, made in the USA. It's BPA free. We assemble it here in California. And, made in America.
Cool. Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story on that. That's awesome, and congratulations. I always love hearing from entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
So I'm going to shift on you, and I'd like for you to talk about a time you failed, how you overcame that failure, and what you might have learned from it.
Well, I think one of the things that I learned, and it's going back to the pet stores, I didn't really know my product. And it was really a bummer when you go into PetSmart and you get
Yeah.
rejected. And you literally have the head buyer on the phone and he goes, I just don't have shelf space for this. And you get these rejections.
Yeah.
And then it was another company called Pet Sense. And I went to them and I'm talking to the buyer on the phone and you get that rejection, that failure. But, I consider failure practice, you know?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, he just doesn't get it and I'm going to move on. And so after I got rejected by all the pet stores, that was, I went to, again, like we talked about, I went to the irrigation buyers at the home improvement stores. So the
Hmm.
rejection, that is, that hurts. And sometimes people will stop and think, oh, I could have stopped at that point and go, oh my God, I can't get into any of the pet stores, but that wasn't my customer. And so I really, had to think about, okay, wait a minute, what am I not getting here? I love this
Yeah.
product. This product works great. But I am going to go back to the pet stores with the combo box with the timer. It's a really great looking
Oh,
setup.
yes.
And now with the timer, because I've studied their shelves and I look at it and everything's got a plug and everything's got a
Yep.
fountain and a reserve or whatever they have, the product. And so I think they were looking at it like, okay, well, how does this thing work? And I think presenting it with the timer. So I might, you might see us in the pet store soon too. But it's all
Nice.
a learning process. You know,
Oh,
you,
yeah.
you have to just keep moving forward.
Right. Well, and I love what you said. You said failure is the practice.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, that is exactly, and we've done 240 episodes so far. That is the exact point that I want to get out to people in why I asked this question.
Yeah. If you're not failing, you're not growing.
Yeah.
And that's really, how I've lived this because, I even, I've had some family members say to me, last year while I was doing this, like, why don't you just give up? It's okay. And I was like, no, I believe in this. I was
Yeah.
feeling a little bit down about the rejection.
Yeah.
And I had some other people that were, coaching me.
Hmm.
It's really funny. Jim Doherty, who was the founder of PetSmart, he sold the company. He's no longer the founder, but he was my mentor. And he would
Wow.
call me up probably, if it wasn't every month, it was every 45 days and give me a little pump up. And he said, Ed, here's the problem. The problem is that the pet industry is moving at about 45 miles an hour when the demand for new products is running at 100 miles an hour. He
Yeah.
goes, your product is an industry disruptor and the pet industry doesn't get it yet. And he goes, you need to keep going. And he goes, this is the best advice I could give you. And this is the guy who he built PetSmart. He
Right.
also built Pet Sense and sold it to Tractor Supply. But Jim's retired. I probably haven't talked to him. I think the last time I talked to him was right after Christmas. So he's retired, but he was my mentor. He gave me some really great, thoughts and motivation, and I want to thank him if he's listening.
Yeah. Perfect. And you started saying the best piece of advice he gave you.
It was, his best advice was that the product is an industry disruptor and not to give up. He goes,
Yeah.
the pet buyers don't get it because, the industry is there, your product is a disruptor. They're not
Right.
getting it yet. And that's
Yeah.
really when I moved over to the hardware part of it. And I started to pitch the Home Depots and the Lowe's and the Ace
Hmm.
Hardwares and started going that direction. I used to sell at the farmer's market also. My buddy had Asian pears. And this is going back into the mid 80s, right?
Uh-huh.
And so they were really becoming a big thing. And he had in Chico, California, he had like 50 acres. And so he was bringing them down to where I lived in Northern California. And I was taking them in just to make some extra money like you. And I would go to the farmer's market in Walnut Creek, California, and I would sell them. And it was something, I was the only one there with them.
Oh my gosh.
Great way to make
And
gas money and date money and all that stuff I needed at that time.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Good for you. So what do you consider your biggest success?
Well, right now, my biggest success is getting the Home Depot account and that new relationship I have with Rain Bird. That was huge for me because
Yeah.
I literally, and this is a great story. I was on the phone with the irrigation buyer at Home Depot, and I sent her a photo, an email with some photos of some artwork of the new combo box. And it had a picture of a generic timer in there. And I said to her, I go, Lindsay, I would prefer, instead of introducing a third timer into your irrigation aisle, I would prefer to work with one of your current vendors. So while I was on the phone with her, I saw my email flash, and she was emailed the person over at Raindrip. I would like you to have a phone discussion with Ed Vaccaro to discuss this product. Yeah. And so, boom, I saw him email back, and boom, said, that's great. We'll have somebody contact him. That was on a Friday. It was Martin Luther King Day on the following Monday. Tuesday, my phone rang, and it was a phone call. Hi, this is Kim from Rainbird. We would like you to come to Tucson and it was like 2 weeks later. I was like, boom, oh my God, I think that was a big success for me too. So the combination of, the Home Depot led into the Rainbird, and these are people that get it.
Right. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So what drives you?
Well, here's my thing. I went through a period in my life where I had a plant business, and I was very young. I was in my early 20s, and this was an event that happened in my life. I had my greenhouse full of all my poinsettias and all my product for Christmas. This was in December. And in the area of Northern California that I'm in, we don't get snow, or we don't really get it gets cold. We'll get down into the 30s. We had a cold snap. There was a where I was located, my neighbor used a lot of propane, and the guy was supposed to fill up my tank and decided he was going to come back the next day. My heater clicked off in the evening, and I lost my entire greenhouse because when it went under 32 degrees, and when a plant, any kind of tropical plant, poinsettia, anything like that, they freeze. It's like lettuce. It's done. Right. It's just it's done. And so I lost my entire crop. I went broke. I lost everything. I wound up losing. Wound up losing everything. And so when you lose everything in life, and I'm talking, you have nothing. You never want to go back there. Matter of fact, I think I had less than nothing. And so I had a new baby on the way, the whole thing. And so, it was my motivation in life is not to be broke again. How's that? Yeah. And so never to be back there. And so when I wake up in the morning, I've been blessed, but it's like, I'm never in my comfort zone. I am out of my comfort zone every single day. If you're not out of your comfort zone, you're not growing. You're not doing the things that you need to be doing.
Yeah. Cool. Then that sounds like it might be a final piece of advice that you have for our listeners.
Well, this is the best advice I can give you if you're an entrepreneur. And this is something that I live by, that successful people do the things that other people don't like to do.
Yep. Amen to that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Ed. It's been a treat getting to chat with you.
Thank you. Yes, it was my pleasure. I'd love to anytime chat with you.
Thank you. So how can our listeners get a hold of you and find a hydro pet?
Well, if you go to my website, you have to put in the word "the," so it's thehydropet.com. And we will pop right up, and it'll say best watering device or best watering bowl, and click on that and take a tour. We have tons of videos, how-tos, how to connect, and the best use for the hydro pet.
Nice. You can find show notes from today's podcast at urbanfarm.org/hydropet. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us on the Urban Farm Podcast. Do you want to save money at the grocery store, eat more organic, whole foods, cultivate food security, and feel more connected to the earth? If so, then growing your own food is a no-brainer. You wouldn't believe how many people come to me claiming that they can't grow their own food. They think they don't have enough space, that they're too busy, or that they simply don't have what it takes. Perhaps you've fallen for one of these gardening myths. If you think you can't grow food, Or if you think the only food that you have access to is what you buy in the grocery store, I have a life-changing webinar that you need to see. It's free and will help you unearth your inner gardener. I've helped thousands of people just like you learn to grow their own food, and I'm speaking from my own experience when I say that with the right knowledge in place, there is no such thing as a black thumb. With this webinar, you can begin making your garden dreams come true and start growing delicious, nutritious food for your family. Just text GARDEN to 44222 or go to iwanttogarden.com and you will receive our free webinar about the 7 key factors you need to know to grow your own food. Remember, that's GARDEN to 44222 or iwanttogarden.com.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen 3 days a week for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.